I took a week off from recording just to see how I would feel, and I was surprised by the things that came up. Hey, this is Tracy with Tracy Talks. Welcome. In one of my episodes, I recently talked about I've been doing the podcast for 2 years now. And during this time, I have tried to record new episodes for the majority of the time. And those times and weeks when I hadn't planned or something came up, there were many times where I would rerun an episode just to still provide content. And I'd reached a point where I needed to take a step back and see how I am really feeling. It's interesting when I started recording the podcast because this was something that I had wanted to do. And there were visions and goals that I had set for myself, but it was something that I was doing. And it was purely for me. There was some hope that maybe somewhere along the way I could empower another woman to believe in herself and be courageous in taking a hard step in life. So there was that hope in the back of my mind when I started. But I really felt like it was just something that I wanted to do. And then somewhere along the way, when the recording was happening, there was this pressure that I was putting on myself. Because there then becomes an expectation that when you have a schedule and a routine, there is people that are waiting for the new episode to drop on Monday and Wednesday and Friday. And there's a different set of pressure that then crept in. And it's this fine line of then me realizing, am I now doing this for me? Is that still the case? Or am I doing this because now there are some people that have an expectation, and am I doing it for them? Because it's interesting when there is no, like, I didn't post anything saying, you know what, I'm going to be taking a break. And I thought about it, and then I thought, let me just not post anything. And I wasn't sure how I was going to feel this past week either, because again, there had been this pressure that I was feeling. I was feeling there was an expectation. I was feeling the pressure to perform. I was feeling all of these weird feelings that I hadn't started out feeling. So where did they come from and why? Monday morning, when I realized that the episode would have dropped, there was just an awareness that, I should have had an episode. But I really tried to not put pressure on myself. I didn't want to feel disappointed. I didn't want to feel all of those negative feelings that we feel like when we are doing something against what we had either said we were going to do or what we had intended to do. And I really felt pretty good just taking a break. Like, why am I doing this? It was a moment for me to decide, why am I doing this? What am I doing? Who am I doing it for? Do I want to continue with the same content? Do I want to continue with the same format? Wednesday rolls around. Again, this awareness that I should have had an episode. And then during the day, a text comes in. Are you feeling okay? Are you okay? I noticed you didn't have an episode. And in that moment when I read the text. I was tuned into my body and I could feel the tightness in my solar plexus. I could feel the frustration and anger in my heart because here I was trying to step away from this and not put pressure on me. And here comes this expectation from outside of me. And I responded, I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I don't. I just wanted to take a break. I didn't explain that in the text, though. It was just like, I don't know what I'm doing because that was an honest response. And again, there was this sense of ease and relaxation for the rest of the week. And then Friday comes around and this same person texts, I noticed there wasn't a pod today. Are you okay? Or did you block me? And in that moment when I read that response, there was so much anger and frustration in me. You know, here was this person making my podcast about them. Like, did you block me? Did you keep me out? Did you not let me hear your episode? Did you put up a wall? Did you, you know, when you dissect that terminology, it's like, why don't I have access to you? Are you intentionally keeping me out? And this was a moment where, again, it was, why am I doing this? It was a moment where I could really look into, why am I doing this? What am I doing this for? And clarifying, what does that mean? And when I look back over my life, there are so many times where I've entered into a relationship with these pure intentions that, it's nice to have a relationship. It's nice to have somebody that you can create memories with and share experiences with. And then, there's that moment in the relationship when something happens and there's kind of a flag that pops up. And it's like this little warning, and either they say something or they do something, and you're seeing this flag, and then you're like, but this person, we can go to dinner, we can go see live bands, we can do all these things, and so you kind of ignore the flag because, like, it's just one little flag. So you keep doing things because it's just nice to have somebody. But then I realized that, in those times in those relationships, I was doing things then maybe for the wrong reasons. Like, I wasn't doing and being in that relationship because I absolutely love them, and they made me feel a certain way. It was like, well, I see that flag, but I'm going to choose to ignore it now. And there's a moment where we've lost sight of why we're doing what we're doing. And so I've done that with this podcast. It was a moment where I need to figure out and remind myself why I'm doing this. And am I purely doing it for me because I want to? Because I don't know how many listeners are recording podcasts, but it does take energy and time and commitment to create content. I'm just doing 10 minutes. I can't imagine doing an hour or two 2 times a week, but then to edit and then to post and do all of the things that it takes a lot. It's not like I'm just talking here for 10 minutes and the upload is quick and all of these things just magically come together. When I read the text from the person basically saying, "Why isn't there an episode?" It made me angry because I was wanting a week of no pressure, of trying to give myself a break. Like, everybody deserves a vacation, everybody deserves time off. And do we have to set a formal out of office? I don't know how many of you are like me, but I don't always want to explain why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. Like, why do I need to explain that I need a vacation? Why do I need to explain that I need time away? Did I learn anything about myself this week? I don't know. I don't know that I did, and I don't know that I can articulate it and structure it into a cohesive response right now. I will say that there are times with creatives, if you're a creative, you know that there are ebbs and flows in energy and creativity, and we're not always meant to be on. That there are cycles, and it's a matter of, it's like riding a wave in the ocean. There's not always waves in the ocean. And if there isn't a wave, there's nothing to ride. And that's the same for creativity. And I will say that there is a creator that I listen to, and one of the topics of discussion lately has been this: we have been living in a society where we are conditioned to only be producers. We show up to work and we have to be on, we have to be consistent, we have to perform at the same level and rate every single day. And the reality is, we were never designed to do that. We are not meant to be consistent. We are not robots. We are not machines. And I can look back into my past and see why some of these positions became so uncomfortable for me, and I couldn't put my word, I couldn't articulate it, I couldn't talk about it, I didn't really know what it is, but it was this moment of, now I know that it is hard for me to be in this place where it's like, you got to show up every single day. You've got to do 50 of these. You can't complain. You can't have any bad days. You can't have any moments where you're frustrated. We have to perform. You have to perform the same every single day. And how many of you have had a boss like that? Like, I don't want to hear you bitching. I don't want to hear you complaining. I just want you to do your job and get it done and be this same version of yourself. And that's not realistic. And so it was also this light bulb of, here I have been trying to be in this schedule of, and it's one that I set for myself. And again, it goes back to this conditioning of, I've got to set a schedule and I have to release them at the same time. And the algorithm likes that. The puppets behind the curtain, Oz or whoever is making the algorithms, likes that consistency, wants to know when things are coming. The inconsistency then puts you and your channel farther down, and it doesn't like that. But here I was creating this schedule, which I don't necessarily thrive under. It has been starting to feel difficult to keep that up. And we'll see where this goes. We'll see where I take the content. We'll see what happens. But it was nice just to give myself a break and not have the pressure, and just gave me time to feel into my body and figure out and reconnect with my why. Why am I doing this? Thank you for listening to this episode of Tracy Talks. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe, and share with others who would enjoy listening to this podcast. Friends can find Tracy Talks available on iTunes, Spotify, Substack, and YouTube. Hit me up on Instagram and Facebook at More Tracy Talks. And until next time we meet again.